15 years ago, on May 25th, 2008, Team 4-Star was founded. It was a small company made of just 3 guys. They wanted to voice act, they wanted to edit, and they wanted to write. Together, they created an abridged series, Dbza, Dragon Ball Z Abridged. It was a great show, a really good show, and it had a very tragic end. I loved it. It was an incredible show. And now, many years later, I've sort of rediscovered it recently. I was watching a lot of reaction channels, and somehow someone reacted to the whole series. So I went and watched it, and I noticed something very interesting about Team 4-Star and about Dbza in general. And Dbza is both simultaneously the gayest show I've ever seen on the internet, and also the most homophobic show I've ever seen on the internet. In the early episodes, it's almost like a time capsule for early 2000s homophobia. When I was younger, I had a lot of internalized homophobia. You know, society kind of teaches you to act a certain way and to be a certain way, and you discover parts of yourself, and then you grow to hate those parts of yourself because that's what everyone tells you to do. And nobody ever sat me down and was like, it's bad to be gay. But deep down, I just thought it was, because of shows and the way people talked and how gay meant stupid and all the classic internalized reasons. Also, I was a really big fan of Eminem, and he may be the most internalized homophobia man who ever existed. Like, is it just me, or do he be gay? But I watched a lot of shows, and I listened to a lot of music, and society in general kind of taught me gay bad. And watching Team 4-Star back after all these years, the early seasons are insanely homophobic. Stereotypical characters, constant innuendos, but not in like a fun way at first. The real bad stuff is when they actually do the classic joke of the early 2000s, where something gay happens and then you just yell out, "Gay!" It eventually evolves over time, and you notice the homophobia of the show start to twist and turn with the times. So first the show starts out with gay, and they're yelling the word I will not say, the bad word, the F slur as it's called, the word I refuse to say even though I'm allowed to say it. They say that word a lot at really unimportant times. It doesn't really emphasize anything. And personally, I think there's no reason to say it. Like, I like dark humor and I like saying bad words, but like, oof. It didn't age well. But the funny thing happens in that show. Because one of the main creators is gay, it's not technically homophobic. It is homophobic, but it's internalized homophobia. As the show goes and being gay becomes more and more accepted, both internally in the team and also in the outside world, a really strange and interesting thing happens as you watch the show. You can kind of see the development of how society slowly whittled down homophobia less and less in speech. I mean, don't get me wrong, the world is incredibly homophobic, maybe even more than it's ever been. But the speech of it has kind of whittled down. It's become less acceptable to be openly homophobic. So the show starts with them just saying the F slur. Then they do the gay joke over and over again. And then as the show progresses, it gets to no homo jokes, where it's like, I'm not gay, but no homo, where it's like, I am not a gay person. I did do a gay thing, but I'm not a gay person. It grows as it goes. And slowly as the show continues, it doesn't just become less homophobic, it becomes gayer. Like, actually gay? Like, not like jokingly gay. But like, there are characters who are gay in the show, and they live lives. There's a married old gay couple. There's various gay main characters. Yes, it's used as sort of a joke, but the joke isn't that they're gay anymore. I mean, maybe a little bit. It's an interesting sort of feeling going through all the old episodes, because occasionally you will see a homophobic line. But as the show progresses, it becomes less and less homophobic and more pro-gay. And I think it's important, since on this channel I talk about things I love, but I also just talk about stuff that is gay, because there's a lot of it, but none of us can find it, because it's hidden from us. Gay people have always existed, and we've always hidden ourselves in media in the subtext, but as time has gone on, we've gotten more and more allowed by straights to exist. And I think it's fascinating to see a group of 3 men slowly change and grow and become less homophobic over time, and almost try to compensate by being very pro-gay as it went on. I don't think there's anything wrong with the 3 creators of Team 4-Star. I don't think they are homophobic at all. I mean, one of them is openly gay, but there's definitely some flexibility in that group. I think it's fascinating to see one of the most homoerotic shows of all time, Dragonball, at the same time as being incredibly homoerotic the entire time. The show of the big, strong, manly men where you just look at man's muscles until they punch each other and talk about their feelings. It's funny to see that show, when recreated by fans in a more humorous way, immediately grapples with homophobia, almost like it was destined to become what it is. And I think it's kind of beautiful. I love Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I think it's a masterpiece. I wish they could have finished it. And the story of it is very tragic. It was an incredibly good show. Everybody loved it. It got better and better as it went. They become less and less homophobic as it goes. And by the end, it became better than the original. Some people don't even watch those original episodes of Dragon Ball and simply go to Kai after. They just continue from when it ends. If they dubbed every single episode, I don't even know if people would watch old Dragon Ball, because it's just a superior dub. And the tragedy of the whole thing is that as soon as the show became more and more gay, the companies got more and more to restrict it as they went. And I don't think these two things are related. I don't think that Funimation got rid of Dbza because it was gay. I think they got rid of it because copyright slowly became less and less allowed on YouTube. Copyright restrictions got stronger and stronger on YouTube over time. So when the companies gained more power, well, of course they're going to take down the show that takes their content and reuses it. Legally, they're allowed to do that. I don't know if I agree with that. I kind of hate copyright in every single way, but I understand, and I know why the show needed to be destroyed forever. It's sad. So after the third season of Dbza, the Boo saga was about to begin. They finished the Cell saga, and they were about to get into some really good stuff, and I think they would have done so many more gay things as the story progressed. There was so much potential for comedy in those later seasons. And I think them not liking the Boo saga may have actually made the show better. They could have improved upon the saga that they didn't like so much. It would have been really fascinating to watch these guys sort of struggle with a piece of the content they didn't even enjoy as much, because they would have been distanced from it and been able to be even funnier and expand upon their already existing lineup of characters. And it's just sad that they never got to do it. They were going to do a season 4. It was going to happen. They were taking some breaks so they could go work on other stuff, and then behind the scenes, Funimation pulled the plug. They didn't allow them to work on Dragon Ball stuff anymore. They were slowly phasing them out of other things, and they kind of were just like, we're done with you. And it's sad, and it was inevitable. I think there's still a place for a Abridged series. I think they just need to be more creative in a modern day. And they started doing the shorts, and that worked, and then they slowly were trying to figure out other things to do, and it's kind of sad that Team 4 Star isn't as powerful as it used to be. It doesn't have as many views. They're not as successful as they used to be, but they still exist. In fact, they've made some amazing shows since. I think Heffel is like legitimately good as like a sequel to Dragon Ball Abridged. Heffel, the Home for Infinite Losers, is a 3D animated sequel to Dbza that follows all the characters that got sent to hell and what they do to slowly work their way back to freedom. It's about hell rehab, and I think it's a really good show. It looks weird, and when you first look at it, you're like, I don't know about this. You kind of go, this is what they're doing? But as you watch it, you realize it is actually really, really good. It just has an interestingly new art style that you're not used to. They have a very big Patreon-based audience, and I think they'll continue to exist. Yes, they're struggling, and they'll probably never actually make Dbza and finish it. I would have loved to have seen Boo. I would have loved to have seen Super. I feel like by now we would have been halfway through the Boo saga, on our way to the 5th season for Super, but it just didn't happen. Big companies have the power to just destroy any sort of art form immediately as if it messes with their bottom line. And that's just sad, and that's just the world we live in. But I think that Dbza is a masterpiece, and despite all of its flaws and its own internal struggle against whether or not it is funny to be gay or not, it comes out at the end a gay masterpiece. Totally willing to be included amongst all the other gay things I've talked about. I don't just talk about gay things, but it is big in my mind. It is important to me. When I was in college, while I was watching that show, I was so inspired that I kind of don't know if I should say this, but I tried to make my own Abridged. My friends were really into it, I was really into it, and they asked me to help them make an abridged series. So I edited my friends doing Bleach Abridged, and it was awful. It was the worst thing I'd ever done. I think we had a really nice recording booth because we were in film school, and we had really nice microphone equipment, like way better than we deserved, and they were not great. The writing was awful. And having done it myself, tried to do it, and edited other people who have done it in a show I didn't even like. I didn't like Bleach. I'd never seen it. So when I was editing someone abridging it, it was an experience. But speaking as a person who did try to make one, the skill that those three men had, and still have, is incredible. I love that Team 4 Star is still up. I love that Takahata started his VTuber scene, which if you think about it, he is basically continuing the concept. I mean, TV2, his VTuber show that happens every few years, is basically very similar to it's like a live improv version of what they were doing before. You could see the trajectories of all the creators as they moved on. And it's not like they don't talk anymore. They still make videos together sometimes, and they still make content and stories and write, and they're even trying to get into live action stuff, which is incredible because doing live action is really difficult in modern day. It's not an easy thing to do, but I'm glad they're still fighting the good fight, and they keep trying to exist. But there will always be a special place in my heart for DBZA, despite its own homophobia and its own flaws, and the fact that it was kind of doomed to never be able to be finished. It was made at the right time, by the right people, and I loved it. And that's all I have to say about that. If you enjoyed this video, I have another channel where I talk about lore of various characters. I'm talking about Kingdom Hearts right now. You probably came here from that channel. I have a D&D show. It's not very good, but recently I was editing it today, and I actually liked it. I think it's getting better. I think in 4 months, it'll be great. I don't know. I like it. But on the screen is another video. You can go check that out. Thanks for watching. Bye.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway, but more, much more than this, I did it my